Is still a word, right? Did I just date myself?
You can bring it back.
We can bring it back. It works. Well, who's excited to learn about multifamily? Yeah, all the cheers at once. We're all so excited. It is a very interesting subject. It can be a little complex and a little convoluted, but we will dig through it today. I have good news and bad news. As we go to look, we're already losing one. So she's like, no.
Get work done, that's it.
Can I plug myself real quick? The good news is that OneGuard does multi-family warranties.
Bam! That is actually good news because you know how hard that is to find? Super hard to find.
We do.
And they brought lunch, so they're amazing. Good news is we're going to have a pretty casual class today. We're going to ask a lot of questions. We're going to give you a lot of answers. Bad news is I had this grandiose idea for a real pretty PowerPoint, and that did not happen. So, going to be a little bit more casual. We're probably going to put this screen up in a minute and just pan and pin some stuff out on the board so you can see it, feel it, and get a grasp for it. So sorry, no pretty pictures today other than just my start. Just because it's a good way to start it. So you can say, who is this guy talking to us today? And, of course, what's everyone love to talk about themselves? So I'm going to take a minute and talk about myself. I am an Arizona native. I am a 5th generation Arizona native. Batman is the best superhero in my opinion. If you want to debate that, we can talk after class. I started my real estate career in Y2K, January 9th. Of the year 2000, right when the world was going to explode, no one's computers were going to work, and we were all going to be living in the dark ages again. Obviously, that didn't happen. Life was good. I was doing real estate and did my first commercial building transaction in 2004. That is the building right there. It still stands to this day down in Gilbert. And since then, I've done just about every type of real estate transaction there is. I've only been baffled once here in the last 5 years, and that was just about a month ago. Good old Shane Cook, he does some commercial real estate in the East Valley, and he brought a new one to me, and I said, you know what, Shane? That is a first. 20 years, you were the first man to bring that to my table, so we'll have to figure that out together. Otherwise, been there, done that, seen it. Obviously with a focus on investment real estate and commercial, so that's my forte. But also when the market crashed and no one was buying or leasing commercial buildings and it was a ghost town out there and there were strip centers that were just 100% vacant and no hopes of getting someone in there, I turned to buying real estate, residential real estate for Canada's version of a REIT. And so we ended up buying about 1,500 homes over the course of 2 years with them. So that was fast and frivolous and fun. And then back into commercial we went. So I am married. That's my beautiful wife there. We have 5 kids. That picture's a little bit old. I should update it. We are a little bit crazy, but I love them nonetheless. They haven't put me in the grave yet. I like my suits, as you can maybe see today with my plum. I'm going with plum, light plum on this. My wife says it's more pink, but I'm going with plum. Last year, I finished 4th in the company for production out of all the agents. Of course, Jason Mitchell was at the top with all of his numbers, but I finished 4th with my numbers doing commercial. So we close a lot of deals. Well, let me take that back. We don't close a lot of deals. We close a lot of volume in deals. So I actually last year only did 33 transactions, but of those 33 transactions, we closed over 44 million. So it works out pretty good. I do have a disorder, so bear with me today. It is a legitimate disorder, Witzel-Such. I call it Witzel-Dutch with my last name. And I do not know when to not say inappropriate things or at the wrong time. And there might be some swearing and there might be some sexual innuendo, and I apologize in advance. And last but not least, we're going to talk about caps and NOIs. That's why I started with this old PowerPoint, because you can't even talk about multifamily until we start talking about those. I'm going to reverse that statement for a second because we are going to talk about what constitutes multifamily. There is a baseline for it. So, any takers? Where does multifamily kick into commercial versus residential?
5 units.
5 units plus.
5 units plus, yep. So 4 units and under, it is easier. It's pretty basic. You can get residential funding, which makes a big difference. You can get almost everything you need through MLS, searching on MLS for properties. You can use the AAR contracts, and they work great. And then comes 5 units, and everything changes and shifts. Financing is different, and that's a big component to it. Beyond financing is also just the deal structure, the contracts that we use, the conversations that take place, and then also how the investors look at the deals. Changes quite a bit. You might notice in a duplex, triplex, fourplex, a lot of people, they're not asking caps and NOIs, they're just saying, what is it? Can my son live in 1 unit? Can I live in 1 unit? You know, it's down the street from my house, I figured it'd be all right. And, you know, if I can make 10 grand a year off of it, great. They're not even looking at any other numbers. But after 5, things start to shift. So, let's talk about NOI. And I always like to say NOI first because really that helps us generate our cap in most places. And sometimes with these deals, the guy on the other side of the table from you doesn't even know the NOI. Or maybe they are calculating the NOI differently, which is very common. So, any takers on what NOI stands for?
Net operating income.
Net operating income. Start of the class, front row. Good to see you. All right, so net operating income, which any basic financial person can tell you, that is the money you are left over after all your expenses are paid. So when we are looking at multifamily, we really want to dial in to that NOI. Brokers on the other side, especially in the larger deals, they will provide a financial sheet in most cases. Usually it'll include a rent roll and it'll include the operating expenses, or the OPEX, we call it. You know, so a lot of times I'll call up the other broker, hey, I see this property on Broadway here, is it still available? Why do I always ask if it's available first? Because commercial brokers don't update a dang thing ever. And they're not on MLS, and MLS has standards and policies and procedures that you have to update things, and if you don't, you get in trouble. Not in my world. There's no MLS police. There's no broker police. So, like, there's one right now. I've got a client, he's looking for a small multifamily in Mesa, and I've sent him everything on the market, and 5 of them, right off the bat, I knew were not available because they've been on the market for 8 months, and I've already talked to the brokers, and they're still there. But that being said, why might they leave them there, right? I mean, why would they not be in a hurry to take it off the market?
Get calls.
Yeah, the guy off the street finds it on the internet and calls them up. Hey, I see this one on University. What is it? Oh, you know what? That one's under contract. I'm not going to tell you it closed 6 months ago, but it's under contract. And what are you looking for? I might have something else for you, or I'd love to show you something else. So it's kind of a fishing technique. But I always ask, is it available? Perfect. It's available. Great. Can you send me the rent roll and the OPEX? Operating expenses. Because I don't care what their numbers are. I want to see what my numbers are. And then, of course, as we dig into the property, if we get under contract, we're going to verify all those numbers. So, NOI. It is a fun equation to pull off. And actually, I'm debating, we're just going to pull this. We're just going to do some more work. This is going to be better. All right. NOI. I wonder if I can shut that off for a second. Maybe. All right. So, NOI. If we are looking at a property, and let's say that property is worth, or they're asking, not worth, but they're asking $1 million. And they come in and they say, I have an NOI of $65,000. That's my NOI. That's my net operating income. That is after all the expenses have been paid. What cap rate does that give me? Oops, not a car rate. That's different. What cap rate does that give me? Anyone?
6.5%.
6.5%. So all we're doing is dividing the income you're making annually by the asking price. Now the asking price could change. We might negotiate it down to $950,000. Let's say we go under $950,000. What's that change our cap to?
6.84.
6.884. So it puts upward pressure on our cap, which means what to our income? Kind of a tricky way to word it, sorry. Better return. It's a better return on income.
Yeah.
Your income stays the same, but your return is better. Look at it as an interest rate. If you were going to take $1 million and put it in the bank, and the bank said, I'm going to give you a 3% return on your money, then you're looking at, okay, they're giving me 3%, and it's a 3% interest rate essentially. Almost the same way to say, I'm going to give you a 3% cap. You put your money with us, and this is what I'm going to give you in return. So most investors will call you initially and say, hey, I really want multifamily. Give me a multifamily property. Okay, let's start going through it. What is the biggest criteria for you? 9 times out of 10, they're going to start with this. And they're going to say, well, I need a 9 cap. Okay. If this was 2013, I'd get you a 9 cap. But we're not there right now. And why is that? What happens if we are looking at our return on investment? And we look at it and we say, all right, here's our cap rates. And our cap rates go up. Let's say it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. There's our cap rate. If this is our risk factor, and let's say we're calculating risk in a numeral factor of low risk up to high risk, what happens, what would our trend line look like as our cap rate increases and our risk?
Risk goes up.
Risk goes up. So we don't get, lots of people make this misnomer right off the beginning, and especially newbie investors that I talk to. Maybe it's their first multifamily, maybe it's their first real investment, and they think that as the cap goes up, that the risk goes down. That couldn't be farther from the truth. What happens is as the cap goes up, your risk goes up. Sometimes on the same trend. Maybe it's a little bit less, depending on things like location, job growth, economics, etc. So maybe it doesn't go up at the same rate. Or maybe you're in downtown Phoenix circa 2004 and your risk rate is like here as you go up. No offense to downtown Phoenix. I've been here my whole life. I love it. So you have to educate them on that factor. So a lot of them will say, oh, Aaron, I need a 9 cap. Great. What does that mean to you? Because everyone's got those little bit of different things, right? When someone says, well, I just need a good deal. Well, what's a good deal to Wes might be a different deal for me, right? Someone might want long-term gains. Someone might need short-term gains. Someone might just have a 1031 exchange. They might have cash burning a hole in their pocket and they need a tax shelter like now. So, what's a good deal to you? So I always ask, what does a 9% cap look like to you? And I would say just under half of the time I get, well, I want a really good tenant in a really good area. I want like a Starbucks. Can I get a Starbucks like in Scottsdale with a 9 cap? No. Sorry. That's not going to happen. And I'll use some of those commercial examples so that we can compare that to the multifamily world. But to give you an idea, right now, Starbucks, because coffee's big, Starbucks and Dutch Brothers are trading anywhere from a 3.28, and I just saw one yesterday, but it was in South Tucson, so I'm going to give it a little bit of credence. It was at a 4.6 something. That's a something. So, why is that? Why do they trade at such a low cap? I mean, you can almost get this in a money market account. You don't even have to own real estate. So why do those trade so low?
Because the tenant's such high quality.
High quality. There's no, your risk is like, you're a Starbucks and your risk is like here. Why? Because they're a multi-billion-dollar public company that pays the rent. Even if that location shuts down, and let's say demographics change, all of a sudden there's a shift in the economy, and you guys will see this all the time. I get the calls all the time. Aaron, there's this building. It's been vacant for 5 years. They've got to cut me a deal on it. They're not going to. Sorry. There used to be a Walgreens. Walgreens is still paying the rent. But they haven't been there in 5 years. Yeah, but they signed a 15-year lease. They're still paying the rent. The landlord has no incentive whatsoever to lease it to you. They're going to continue to collect the money from Walgreens because, again, Walgreens is a what? Publicly traded national company with an A rating that is not going to not pay the rent. So it comes back to that risk factor. The nice thing about commercial is, let's say, for instance, you have a tenant that's a little more risky. You decide to rent to Sweet Brew Coffee. Anyone familiar with Sweet Brew Coffee? A little mom and pop shop. So they might give you a 6% cap, but you might be at a 4% risk. So you're over here. But why might you take Sweet Brew over a Starbucks?
Higher return on investment.
You're getting the higher return. So you're basically doubling your money from what you're getting here. You do your background checks, you do your financials, you make sure you have your bank accounts. But the nice thing about commercial is we don't have to go through an eviction process. There's no tenant landlord rights, there's no fair housing. That'll catch you off guard. I was in a Jeopardy game once for residential real estate, so I knew this many answers. And I was like, oh, sorry guys, I'm just here to like hold space. Like I can't really contribute anything on this game right now. But I did get one. Where does fair housing not apply? Commercial real estate. It's going to be a little bit different with multifamily, and we'll bring this all back together. But Sweet Brew doesn't pay the rent. It's the end of the month. You go change the locks. You take everything that's in there. They either have to come up with the money, or you lease the space out to someone else, and you still get a judgment for every dollar that's left on the lease, plus legal fees and interest. So it's not pretty to default on commercial, especially if there's a personal guarantee, which someone like Sweet Brew, they have a personal guarantee, which means everything in their life is now that landlord's. Starbucks, any personal guarantee? No. Any corporate guarantee? No. It is just take it or leave it and get your 3% and smile. So, as we look at that, and now come back on the cap conversation, when Mr. Investor says, Wes, I want 9%, and you say, okay, what's that look like to you? And he says, well, I want like a Starbucks, or I want a Class A multifamily building in Arcadia with 9%. What do you think Arcadia is trading at? Multifamily, Arcadia. What do you think those cap rates are?
4 or 5.
4 or 5.
Yep, pretty much spot on. 4.2. You can almost get a 6 depending on if they've remodeled it and how stabilized it is. But you're getting right into the 5s, 7s, and something. So, sorry, hey, Mr. Investor, that's great. Love to find you a great property on Arcadia. We just need to reset the scale. We're just not going to get a 9% there. Now, I can guarantee you that Arcadia is going to be a lot stronger than Roosevelt. And I can't spell Roosevelt, so bear with me. Roosevelt. What is multifamily trading for on Roosevelt?
Ballpark 7 or 8.
Yeah, you just bump it up a few notches. I don't have an exact on this one, but anecdotally, because we've been looking,
Yeah.
no problem getting a 6. I mean, you get a 6 all day long, and you can almost break 8. That's going to be an almost.
Yeah.
Almost break an 8. So then I shift the conversation to, okay, Mr. Investor, this is great. Arcadia, I can promise you, you're going to have steadier tenants. They're going to be less transient. You're going to have a higher quality of people. You're probably going to have less parking situations. And this units there have pretty much been remodeled. You're probably going to have less maintenance, which will keep your OPEX down and your management fees down. But I can't get you 9%. But if that's what's really important to you, I can get really close to that in other areas of the valley. And then I start sharing with them and saying, here's option A and here's option B. No problem to share with them a couple in each category so they can see here's your high cap versus your low cap. Because every investor is not you. So for me, I'm going to have a different strategy or a different want for my money than they would. So for instance, I have a client that we closed last year in Arcadia on 16 units. Beautiful complex, completely remodeled. It was 98% occupied. There was one vacant unit when we bought it. When we went under contract, they filled it before we closed. So it wasn't entirely stabilized, but it was pretty and it had really good rents. But of course, we paid a higher premium per door. With paying a higher premium per door, that brought our cap down. So we ended up being right about here. We were, I think at the end of the day, we balanced out about 5.5 on the cap, which was great for Arcadia. I was really pleased, especially for a really remodeled unit. Change that conversation to my other investor. We've been looking for about a year. We flipped one for him about 2 years ago. We flipped one for him in Mesa. It was about 27 units in Mesa. He bought it, turned it, like literally turned it in a day and made like 60 grand. So he was like, that was gonna be a long-term hold, but this guy wants to buy it, let him buy it, I'll take the 60 grand, it's just a quick 60 grand for me, I'm just moving money for 4 days, and let's buy something else. Don't have to twist my arm, cool, we bought one, let's go buy some more. And now we are looking in, actually not looking, we're under contract on 2 properties, so 2. One's 15 units, one's 16 units. They are both in South Tucson, South Tucson. Any guesses on 14 and 16 units price points for 15 and 16 units? It's Tucson, I don't know.
Yeah.
1.2, 1 to 6.
8,000 for the.
We're under contract on one for 424. We're under contract on the other one for 519. Big gap. These properties are literally not even 200 yards away from each other. There's one multifamily property between them, these two on either side. So this segues into another conversation, but right off the bat, we've changed location, we've changed price point, but what also should go up? Because we are definitely cheaper and riskier.
Cap rate will go.
Cap rate goes up. He is buying these things right now, and this I'm a little bit off on this. I was going to check this morning and I didn't. We're sitting right about 8+ cap on this one, and we're sitting right about 9+ cap on this one. So there's my 9 cap, right? For the guys that are looking for the 9 cap. Well, we got to change where we're looking. He had his inspections last week, and he called me up and went, "Oh my gosh, this is ridiculous. I can't believe this place." I was like, "Bill," or not Bill, Bill's my other guy, "Ron, you knew this when we went under contract. You wanted the higher cap. It's a riskier place and it's a riskier location. You know it's going to be high transit. There's going to be a little volatility, but you're crushing the income on these." He's like, I know, you told me that, but oh my gosh, how do people live like this?" I was like, "You're not living like this. You don't have to live like this. Someone else is living like this. And you don't know, this might be 1,000 times better than where they came from, or maybe they just don't care and they're happy because it's cheap rent for them."
How many units?
15 on the cheaper one, 16 on the other. So yeah, what's my price per door on that?
28,000.
28,000 a door. So that's another term that you guys will hear a lot in multifamily. And sometimes my investors will switch it on me. I've got a guy out of California that's his constant conversation. "Aaron, I need something under 89,000 a door." He doesn't even look at the cap. He looks at what's the price per door. So why would they look at what's the price per door?
Maybe if he's trying to make a value play and increase it.
Those are your value guys. Those are your flippers. They're the guys that are going to go in and increase the value, and we'll play with some math on that and show you how. But I want you to be aware of that. So not everyone's going to just say cap. Some people are going to have location. Some people, it might be that their son's going to ASU and they need something in that area so that he can be living there. So everyone's going to have, and they might give up some cap to be in Tempe. They might give up on some amenities to be closer to the university. So fill out your client and see what they're looking for. But the value add guys, they're just looking at a price per door. And he's got a pretty good system. He knows if he can buy it under basically 90,000 a door in the right demographic, he can do some work to it, and he can sell it at 126, 130 a door. His last one just sold at 126 a door. And so there's a big spread on that. So a lot of your investors that are looking for a short term or a flip rather than a long-term hold, they're going to ask you for price per door. And then that's simple math, just like we did on this one. You're just taking the price and dividing it on how many units are in the property. And that'll give you a price per door. Side note, Chandler just had one of the highest priced multifamily transactions about 3 months ago. They sold a Class A building. Any guesses on how much they sold per door? Price per door? Broke all the records. It was nuts.
320.
What was that?
320.
Not quite that high. That would have been amazing. 226 a door. That's a house. Yeah. That is a house. So, and it was well over 200 units. So do the math on that. What if you sell, I want to say it was 264 units at 226 a door?
Are they doing condo conversion?
No condo conversion. That's another
Just
good
shy of
one.
60 mil.
Size 60 million. I want to say it was like 56.9. So are you going to count
Yeah,
it
that's
as
what I
well?
wanted to do.
So, yeah, those are some big numbers when those start kicking up. But people buying this, what are they getting on their cap
4.
It'll be lower. Yeah.
or lower?
Yeah.
So who's buying that? I mean, that's not me.
REITs.
REITs, yeah, they don't care. It's safe money. They got billions of dollars right now. They got to park it somewhere. And so they're buying up multifamily, and they're buying up really Class A office with really solid tenants like the insurance companies, which is why their State Farm building just sold for almost $1 billion. So they're buying them up because they know they can put their money there and it's safe. And it's not going to be huge returns, but it's safe. They'll then go take 20% of their portfolio and be risky, right? They'll go buy the crazy stuff.
What price range would you say where you start to see more REITs than mom and pop everyday investors?
Great question. So let's shift into that. And then we'll come back to why these ones are so different when they're so close. So there's different scales, if you will, and there's no like this is the law and this is how it works, which I hate, by the way, when I'm working with a broker on the other side. He's like, well, Aaron, you know what normally happens or the standard practice is. And I'm like, no, it's not. There isn't one. It's whatever we decide on this deal is what's going to be. So if you get that, because commercial brokers like to be a little arrogant and they like to try and tell people how to do their job, if you get the guy on the other line and he's telling you, well, Wes, you know, we really don't offer commissions at this level. You can say, well, you can, because there's no rule on that. But I had one of those, a young agent met up with me last week. He's trying to work out a deal on a property. And the other broker's telling him that song and dance. And it's like $325,000. Like, it's not anything. He's like, sorry, we don't offer commissions on commercial. I'm like, BS, let me call this guy right now. This is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. So, in answer to your question, anecdotally, and this shifts, it changes from time to time, healthiness of the market, etc. Anything, and we'll cut out the 0 to 4, I guess it has to be 1. 1 to 4, residential, you're going to see those on MLS.
Yeah.
They might show up on my radar, but it's super rare. Super rare. And when I say my radar, you know, a lot of people go, well, where do all these commercial listings go? Like, how do you guys find them? Are they all off market? No, we just go through a different system. It's called CoStar, which is also its sister company, LoopNet. They're owned by the same. LoopNet owns, or is able to put about 60 to 70% of what's available on the market. So you can get a free access through LoopNet. You're going to see some stuff. You're not going to see all of it. And they're kind of like the travel websites. Once you've looked up flying to the Bahamas 5 times, all of a sudden the price changes. Once you've looked up a property 3 or 4 times, all of a sudden you can't find it anymore. You're like, oh, it must have sold. No, they just know you keep looking at it, so now they're going to make you pay just so you can see it again. So it's a bit tricky. But we have CoStar, and that has pretty much everything, even stuff that's off market, stuff that's for sale by owner. They have researchers in every market that track all this down for us. And then, of course, there is some off-market stuff, and that's just broker relations. But for us, in my system, when I say what I see on my radar, CoStar, I don't see, almost any of these. This is going to be like a low number. If anyone's looking for low units, I just tell them, go to MLS.
Yeah.
Contact your realtor. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be a ton of help to you. I could do it all day long, but it's not my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be the best service to you. Once you get into the 5 units, to about 8-ish, give or take, that's going to be commercial. So it's going to be on CoStar. And there's no question it should be a 3%er. All day long. There's just no reason why it's not. And from there, pretty much everything is going to be CoStar and commercial. And you'll kind of see it start scaling. You'll get into the 8, call it, 16 to 20 units. You should still be close to 3. There's no reason you can't be 3. but it's going to start shifting. You might have some downward pressure on that. Might be 2, might be 2.5. You start getting into the 20 plus, and it's kind of all bets are off. There might only be 2. If there's any, it's going to be max 2. And I say if there's any. They're legitimately after 20, it could be 0. And that's not uncommon. So if you are looking at a 30 unit in Arcadia and you call the guy, hey, is it still available? Yeah, it's available. You know, we've had some people looking, no LOIs yet. Great. Can you send me your OM? I'd love to look at the OPEX and see what you guys are doing on it. Yeah, I'll get it over to you. Hey, what do you have for commission on this? That being said, I usually don't ask unless we're getting serious, because there's no sense in getting into those conversations unless you're submitting something. And they will tell you 100% of the time, and if they don't, they're trying to pull a fast one, you call me and I'll call them. They'll tell you. It's not uncommon on big deals for me to say, hey, send me your listing agreement. Just want to see it. Because that will have a breakdown of the splits, how it's supposed to go, where the commissions are. That's normal in our world. So I know residential guys are like, oh, we can't talk about commission. Don't put it in the contract, don't tell me. What do we do? I had a guy last year, he's like, well, how do I negotiate this commission? I was like, put it in the LOI. I can't do that. Yeah, you can. Conversation over and over again. It was like I was talking to a broken record. The next day, well, I just need to know what to do on this commission. Put it in the LOI. Call them up. Send them a text. I don't care. Just have a conversation. Well, I don't know. Next day, what do I do about this commission? I was like, oh my gosh. Just put it in writing. No one cares in my world. They don't care. Because it's a chip on the table, quite frankly. We just had a deal last week. It was going great. We found some skeletons in the closet. Wasn't happy because it was an $18 million deal. And we found some skeletons in the closet and it started to blow up. So we started trying grabbing money where we could to make it work. The problem was the way the deal was structured, my client was going to be on both sides of the deal, technically. So it didn't matter if we raised the rent or put more money, or purchased it for more, it still just affected his return no matter which way we cut it. Guess what was on the table? Commissions.
Yeah.
So it was, hey, we're cutting the commissions in half. If you guys want to get this done, we'll get it done in 5 weeks. We're cutting the commissions in half. Okay. Now, for me, that's an easy conversation. Put the deal first. Commissions will come. You treat your client right, they're going to keep using you. So I had no problem with it. The other broker looked like he got stabbed in the heart and was just told his dog died. He about fell over at the table. And I was like, look, dude, it's better for everyone. Oh, you need to talk after. It's a chip on the table. It just is. And so it can affect the deal. And so it gets negotiated like anything else, but it's on every contract. Sometimes when it's a 0, I'll even ask them, what are the chances we just work something in if we bring you a good price? Just because it's clean, it's easy, my client likes it. But I have conversations with my client every time we start getting into this realm. So, and kind of put it in dollar wise, this is your to 5 million and under. This is like your 8 million and under. And then anything from 10 million on, all bets are off. I have had some guys, I had a 2.5 last year that the guy's like, oh no, it's 2%. And I was like, come on, man, you're shooting us in the foot. It's only, we're under $3 million here. We should have 3% each side, no problem. And he's like, no, not with this client. We do a lot of work for them, so we're cutting. I was like, well, you want to cut yours? That's fine, don't cut mine. I'm bringing you a great buyer. So we tried to negotiate it, and we had a verbal, we were going to go forward at a higher rate, but then my client wanted to negotiate some other things, and I told him, I said, Joe, we'll just get it done. We're not going to worry about building any more commission. Let's get it done at the 2.5, and we're going to move on. It's not worth having an argument over and you blowing up the deal. So does that answer kind of your question on that?
Right. I was asking at what price point or unit amount do you start to see more REITs than? Because if you see one where it's like mom and pop
I got
shop,
on a whole nother tangent.
Because I would think that with the REIT, it's way harder to get to a decision
Yeah,
maker.
it's here.
Okay.
Yeah, most of those guys aren't even touching anything under,
Right.
and quite frankly, a lot of them, it's probably gonna be 10 million, but it's also probably gonna be 50 to 100 units
Okay.
before they're even touching something. So you've got a pretty good market hold if you've got someone that's looking under 100 units and 10 million or under. You're not going to have massive competition. Your competition is here. This is the money spot. That's where you've got a lot of investors, a lot of brokers, lots of things on the market, lots of traction, lots of things trading. After you get into here, it really slows down. And the brokers know that too, right? So once you get into here and you're like, hey, I'm coming to buy this, 30 unit, $8 million deal, they know that's not a lot, there's not a big pull to get on that.
I was searching actually in the past couple of weeks on Korea International or the big commercial brokerages on their sites, and all kinds of multi-family units are sold under contract, sold and everything up to, let's say, 200 units, 20, 30 million, everything sold under contract. Not a single, one single actually with Korea International, downtown Phoenix or something like this, I don't know, don't remember the price, but the rest is completely sold out.
They leave them on
Off
forever.
market.
Yeah, and they'll trade them in-house. So you get into the bigger units too. You start playing in this world, it's basically CBRE in town.
Yes.
They're the ones that list every big commercial, every big multifamily. They're going to trade it to their network first. They're usually going to put it on 2 to 3 months through their system, which you can get on their system, and they'll send you it when they put it out, because they're trying to double dip. They want both sides. So you can get on those lists and see them as they come up, and then they won't put it on and show us sold until they've done it, or maybe it was on for a real spurs moment, and then they'll leave them on for ever and ever because it shows that they had volume and did their job.
And I have another question. For example, a couple of units which caught my eye. They had all kinds of advertising by the brokers, listing brokers. The entire vice president or whatever, all the company lined up. I said, okay, don't you have a unbranded version? I was kidding now because I said, okay, I'm coming from the residential side, but I need your unbranded version, please.
No
Apparently,
branded.
of course, no answer. No
Yeah,
branded.
everything's branded. If
Yeah.
you get an OM or a flyer, it's all branded. Because again, we don't have MLS. We don't have
Yes,
a
yes,
rule
yes.
on that.
We
So
have no rule. Yeah.
yeah, so everything's branded, and so you have to have a good relationship with your client
Yes.
too. Because as you start sending stuff, they'll have direct access to the other side.
Yes.
And most of the other side, they know. If you've also prepped them, I had this happen a couple years ago. We were just starting, just initial phone calls. Hey, Steve, blah, 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 tell me about the property, what's going on. Okay, I've got this guy, he's from Ohio, he seems to be accredited, we're still vetting him, but, send me the initial info. Sends me info, I send it off to my guy. This guy, I hadn't taken a lot of time with him, and he calls up Steve directly. Hey, Steve, okay, blah, 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 I got your flyer here. Steve, I've done a lot of business with, and he puts the pieces together and calls me back, a couple days later. Hey, Aaron, I think I just talked to your guy in Ohio. Here's what he said. Oh, yeah, that sounds like my guy. He's like, hey, just wanted to let you know, I still got you on the deal, but I wanted to give you a heads up where we're at. He called me, I want to reach out to him, so on and so forth. So there is, an honor roll system, if you will, and I've found that to be highly true of most commercial brokers. In my experience, I've had great experiences with that, but that's also my world, right? And so they're usually really good about that if they know. If they don't know and you haven't taken care of your client, there's no way for them to put the pieces together, then it can happen. I had an agent years ago who used to take all the flyers and throw them through PDF and pull everyone's info out of them. And he would spend tons of time doing this. I was like, dude, just have a better conversation with your client. Quit spending 40 minutes adjusting the PDFs and just have a really frank conversation with your client. Like, I'm going to send you stuff, and it's going to have the other guy's info on it, but I want you to reaffirm I'm your broker. When all this conversation needs to go through me, just please email me what ones catch your eye, and so on and so forth.
Do you they get something in writing, like, it's not like by a broker agreement with your client, but somehow so they are aware that they have to, you expect loyalty more or less.
Yeah.
Bottom line.
We have one. It's very common in commercial too to have a broker relationship agreement to say, here's what it is, especially on much larger deals, because you might have a retainer in there. I mean, you're going to put a lot of time and a lot of work. Sometimes they'll even do consulting agreements. We've got a deal on Tempe Town Lake we've been working for 3 years that hopefully, cross our fingers, everyone is going to close in about 25 days or so. And we've had a consulting agreement. The gal on my team that's been working that religiously for 2 years is basically been getting $4,000 a month consulting to work that deal, because it's just heavy. Like, I mean, she almost can't do anything else. So she's going to cash in when it closes, but to help offset that for the time being, that was a conversation we had with the client. Like, hey, we're all about this, and we're here for you 100%, but we gotta compensate.
What is it, the high-rise bill? What is it?
Land development. So
yeah.
so it's just a lot of moving parts. RFPs with the city, zoning council, zoning hearings. Like, it's just been a lot of work. And so we have different broker agreements, consulting agreements that we'll put out to clients, and usually depending on the level of the deal too. So most of the time on the ones that you're doing a lot of, I don't, but I'm always usually having a much franker conversation with my client and building that relationship. My guy in Tucson, I've been working with him for 4 years. He's not going anywhere else, right? I don't need to worry about having a buyer broker with Ron. It's going to work out fine. But, you know, if someone sends me a client that called them and they don't really have a relationship with them and they just reached out to them because their website that, Aaron, this guy wants to buy multifamily, and I start a dialogue with them and I have that conversation, hey, I'm going to be your guy, but I expect some reciprocity here, you know, work with me. I'm going to reiterate that conversation over and over again, and I might do a buyer broker with them to put it in there. But it also, on these big ones, it's good on these big ones, because if it is a zero, you gotta go to that buyer broker, and you work it into the deal. We just reverse engineer the numbers considering that commission in there. And you know, with the commissions getting lower, you know, it's always fun when they're like, "Oh man, I saw you close that huge deal. That's great. Did you get like $600,000 off of that?" It's like, no, the commission was like 7.75%. You know, it wasn't like we even got one. So it changes. But sometimes the bigger deals are also easier because they're more professional. They have all their stuff together. These deals, hot, flippin', stinky, dirty mess. It's ridiculous. Honestly, I don't even know how these guys made money for 2 years. Like, they've owned them, they've got tenants in them, but like their expenses are all over the map. They're commingling expenses from one building or one complex to the other complex. I mean, we're reverse engineering every dollar that's in there. The good news is we're finding dollars. So Ron's ecstatic on that point because his cap just keeps going up. I mean, he's like, dude, he's like, our inspection reports are nasty. Like I said, we saw him, he's like, oh my gosh, this is horrible. Inspection reports are horrible, but he's like, I'm gonna have to dump more money into them than I thought. Maybe we'll hit him up for a credit. I was like, all right, well, let's decipher the inspection reports and let's see if we're gonna hit him for a credit for all the deferred maintenance. Next day he calls me and goes, look, I think we'll still hit him for a credit, but even if they don't, we're buying these mother effers because these things are throwing off so much damn cash. I don't even know what they're doing because look at my new numbers. And he's like plus 10s and 11 caps with what he's figured out with what they're missing and what their accounting is off on. You know, some stuff double billed, some it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But their loss is his gain. And if I can segue into this, since we were on this number, why the difference in price when they're a couple hundred yards apart?
There's more units? Well,
Only two.
Conditioner?
No, they're both crappy.
It's one under market on rents.
Income?
okay.
Income.
Yep.
This one is getting about $150 less per unit. And so, since most of our value is not on the actual real estate. I know this blows a lot of residential guys' mind. Our value in the real estate's minimal. I can have a piece of dirt with a shack on it, and that could be 1,600 square feet that a hobo won't even live in. But someone's paying me $4,000 a month on that shack. Now I just threw out math I gotta do in my head, so we gotta get my calculator. If you're paying me $4,000 a month on this horrible shack, that's $48,000 a year. And they say, hey, Aaron, we'll give you this thing at an 8 cap. Guess how much that shack's worth? $600,000. I don't care, it's gonna fall over and burn to the ground. If I got a lease on it and I'm secure on that lease, and they're gonna pay me $4,000 a month, that shack is now worth $600,000 because it's what the return is. So these properties are so close together, vicinity-wise, but so far apart, rent-wise, that you have a higher value on one than the other. But that also helps us because we know what about this one?
That it could be raised to the value of that.
That the rent can
At least,
instantly,
yeah.
instantly be raised to this without changing a thing. Because they're both crap. They're equal playing fields. But we know that one's already getting higher rent. So we know instantly that one can go up in value. It's about the same units, so what instantly do we have there? Almost $100,000 in value that we can increase that property in a year just by raising the rents.
Question, how did you do your math from the 48,000 with the 8 cap? What happened?
So 48,000 and then divide that by 0.08. And that'll give you what the value is based on an 8 cap. And if you divide it by a 0.06, 0.05, or a 12, 0.12, that'll move your numbers for you.
I'd multiply that by 8.
Ah.
Why is that not working?
You're like, listen, Aaron, you got fuzzy math. Your math's not working. Now, this is the fun part about multifamily, and especially for some of these add value guys. What else can happen on, now this one, we already know the rents are there, but what else can happen here that instantly changes the value? What are some things investors will look for?
Utilities?
Utilities is a big, big one, and you hit this one right on the head. This one, and this one too, which makes that one even better, you can increase the income because they are including all utilities.
Oh my God, what are these guys doing?
I know, it blows my mind. That's why I keep telling Ron, I was like, Ron, I don't care if these things get hit by a hurricane tomorrow, you buy it and just smile all the way to the bank.
Yeah.
So, they're paying all utilities. We've checked the market, we've checked the surrounding properties, and there's only 2 other properties that are including utilities. One of them is a ship box like ours, and the other one is an extended stay hotel. Well, of course it includes utilities.
Right.
So, what happens is Ron buys this and starts to stabilize the property.
Leases come in.
New lease. Sorry, utilities are now your problem. And it's already sub-metered.
Oh,
A lot of times in multifamily properties, you'll find that they have, for water, and this water is almost always constant, they have 1 meter. Any ideas why they do that? Because in Arizona, they charge you a damn fortune to set your water meter. That's where the cities knew that they could make money. So when you go to build an industrial property or a multifamily property or an office building, 9 times out of 10, like 9,999 times out of 10,000, they have 1 water meter. Because the city charges anywhere from 10 to 30 grand to set that meter.
Wow.
So if you had 15 tenants and you've got 15 units, you want to set 15 water meters.
No.
Absolutely not. It kills your construction and your development. Electrical, not so bad. You can usually get an electrical meter, a traditional regular electric meter, for around 2K. You can sub-meter off of one electrical meter, usually for about 500 bucks. So electrical makes sense. So water, we're not going to touch. Oh, here's the next one that'll blow your mind, Wes. Guess what else is included in these utilities?
Oh my god.
Wow.
They're paying their internet and TV for the entire complex. That happens nowhere,
Wow.
That's generous.
right?
Sometimes they'll structure a deal, but then they pass the costs on to the tenants. They say, "Hey, we got an entertainment package," and it's
And that's
$40.
exactly what he's going to do. He's going to keep it because it is super cheap because they're doing it for the whole place. They do a
Right.
Wi-Fi for the whole thing. But on the new leases, you're going to pay your $40, $50 a month. That's going to include 400 channels,
Wow.
and you're going to have Wi-Fi,
That's a great deal.
but he's going to pass it on,
Sellers got anything else for sale?
right? It's insane to me. But we take utilities out. So when we take the utilities out, and let's say now that we're able to increase, we're not even increasing the rents. Let's say we take all these utilities out, and that equals an extra income of $200 per unit
Yeah.
per month. What's our math on 200 units, or sorry, $200 times 16 units, that's $3,200 a month, times that by 12, that's $38,400 in extra income. What does that do to our cap rate?
Raise it by 480.
480,000 of instant equity. You take a year, change your leases, clean it up a little bit, do a little deferred maintenance. There's going to be some cost to this. It's already sub-metered. You've already got utilities set up. We're just changing some leases. There's going to be some management fees. There's going to be some vacancies, right? We're going to have a house cleansing. There's going to be some people that are, that's it. I'm not paying an extra $200 a month. I'm out of here. Okay, go down the street. They're charging utilities too. So he'll have a cleansing. He'll have some vacancy, but then he stabilizes it. I've said that actually a couple times. Anyone not know what stabilization means in multifamily? So stabilization means that you've had about a year where everything's where it should be. Sometimes that time frame will shift, but then we also see a shift in the value. And so someone's like, we just stabilized this. Well, then I know that the numbers they have haven't been proven for a long period of time.
Right.
So we're kind of buying it on a pro forma, best guess, best numbers. If, on the flip side, they're like, oh yeah, this property's completely stabilized. That means that it's at least been 8 months, most likely it's been a year or more when it's completely stabilized. That means all this that we talked about has been done, we have a track record of it, and we know where it's at. So when my client goes through this and he stabilizes the property, and we have a year's worth of books that show this is where it's at, and he's now taken this, maybe even played with the rents a little bit, but at least on this factor. Now, what does he get to sell this property for?
A whole lot more. Really good.
Yeah, without even considering everything else, just the 480 plus the, call it 520 for easy math. Now we're at 1 million. He took a $520,000 property, put a little blood, sweat, and tears into it, had a little expenses, but now he can turn around and sell that property for $1 million. And it has absolutely nothing to do with the condition of the property. I'll eat my words on that. There's a little bit, but it's a very small factor. When the bank comes out, and a lot of this is bank-based, When the bank comes out and they're gonna lend on it, they're gonna view it, they're gonna inspect it. It's almost like a residential appraisal. The big thing they care about is all these numbers. So they're gonna be looking at all these real close. They wanna see if it's stabilized, they wanna see how the tenant histories look, they wanna know how much the vacancy's been over the last 2-3 years. They're really analyzing the numbers even more than they're analyzing the property, but at the same time, they want to put eyes on it. They want to make sure that there's actually stuff there that people are renting.
For just the lender's sake, do they have a minimum vacancy or minimum expenses that they use, like 5 and 35, or?
Every bank's a little different,
Okay.
but there's tons of lenders that do multifamily. If you go, I'm eating words a lot. There's tons of lenders that do commercial. There's a limited sector that do multifamily.
Okay.
But in that multifamily, there's lots of programs. Generally speaking, in multifamily, you're not getting into anything for less than 30% down. I don't care if it's 5 units, I don't care if it's 50 units. It is like pulling teeth to get under 30% down. You gotta be like an 880 score and have $20 million in the bank, and maybe they'll consider it.
Is that just a minimum required? Is that for debt service coverage ratio?
Debt service cover ratio, exactly. They're gonna have that down payment, and then that can, well, wrong way, that down payment number can go up
Right.
as they analyze the property. Because they start running these numbers and they realize, oh, well, these guys quoted that you're at a 5% vacancy rate. Turns out you're really at a 7. Now we're gonna make this 35% down. Or they come in and they say, oh, you're really a 10% vacancy rate. Now we're putting you at 45% down. Usually they'll get to some percentage down, but if you got something, if it's 20, you're paying cash. You know, if they've had a 20% vacancy rate over the last year or two, it's pretty much guaranteed you're in a cash deal. The banks aren't going to touch it.
Then sometimes, I see a lot of the smaller ones, maybe like the 8 to 16 with down payment, owner carryback. And you have
Correct.
to put like 20% down. They don't expect, they want more, but.
Yeah. So the seller carries make the
Deal work.
yeah, they make it work. They help get over that barrier to entry for a lot of people, because they'll cover some of that. There has been some times where I've gone to the table on a contract and we get to, close to getting our LOI from the bank, and the bank goes, man, our market research in this sub-market is just saying that we're not going to get anywhere close to where you guys are at. We're looking at 7%, vacancy rate, or they haven't stabilized it. These rents are just volatile. They're all over the place. We need another 10% down. My guy doesn't have it. And it's not going to get there. We're either going to walk away, or we go to the seller and say, hey, we're here. Bank's saying, we were here. Bank's saying you're here. If we want this deal to close in 2 weeks, you're going to carry back $100,000 at 6% for 2 years, and then we'll take you out of it, or whatever the numbers are. And that's completely, negotiable. I've had some seller carries that are 3 months. I've had some seller carries. I got one right now. The guy's trying to do a 5 or 6 year seller carry. It's like crazy long. I'm like, we don't need to go that long. But they wanted to go that long. I'm like, hey, you guys are in agreement here. Great. Have your annuity and have your rents. Have that payment coming in. But you usually don't have to go that long. They're usually pretty short.
And how about doing the whole thing, owner financing?
Totally doable. If you do a whole thing owner finance, you don't have to go through any bank. You can close next week. You're good to go. You're putting your money down. Your risk is that he defaults at some point and doesn't pay anymore. That's super, super rare. But you have some thresholds in place that if things start to go that way, you can get notified. You can be added to different things. One way we've gotten around that is usually they're held in LLCs, and we'll add them as members of the LLC, so that way if things start to go south, then we're notified or aware of it, or at least can talk to the bank. Because if you're not, and it's like, well, I have this agreement and he's the mortgage holder, but I'm the owner, the bank's not going to talk to you. You're not on the note. They don't care. So there's some ways that you can mitigate that. But yeah, totally doable.
Can you take over the payments?
Yeah, they can have them send it directly to you, and then you're just paying, and then you're paying them their difference of whatever it is. Yeah, absolutely. That being said, we've got 15-20 minutes. Questions, or we can just go. I know there's probably some specifics. I kind of got off on my soapbox, but we've had some good questions, and anything that you guys are currently working on, or hey, how do I get into this crazy world? I've got people asking. What you got?
I'm currently looking for condo conversions. Do you know, I know it's a complex process, but as far as time goes, how lengthy it can be in general?
I would say like a year, because your big thing is your rezoning.
Yeah.
I just talked to a guy a couple weeks ago that's made his whole fortune on doing those.
Yeah.
And it's super lucrative.
Oh, super, yeah.
And it can be awesome. It can be done pretty cheap. The biggest thing is finding out what the building codes are for that city to change it
What it needs, yeah.
to be that way.
So about a year from.
But about a year, because the fastest you're getting a rezoning process is 6 months.
Yeah.
If everything goes great.
Right.
And if it doesn't, it drags. Which doesn't mean you can't be doing some of the work in the meantime.
Okay.
I mean, you're hedging your bets, but
That's good to know.
yeah, about a year. I'd say worst case, I mean, if you've got a guy that's on it, worst case is 18 months. Best case, you're getting it done in 9.
Okay. Good enough.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
So originally we were getting into this class because we've had a couple of clients that have just dabbled in and kind of thrown out different things about doing multifamily homes, and with that we're lost. We don't deal with that. It's been all residential. So when they come to me, I'm like, with the way they're looking at it, it sounds more like it's just been like podcast talk, like they hear about investing, and I know the market's not there. We have our coach who that has just told us a few things, but we know that the market's not there, especially if they don't know what they're doing to be able to invest. They're probably going to have to take one of these multi-units and go through and do renovations, because the ones that have came up, the 2 clients, there's one at $380,000, the other one's at like $500,000, and even they're not wanting to do too much anyway. They're expecting to have something in one of the nicer areas,
They don't
like
have the cash either.
yeah, they don't have the cash to do it. So
Time.
yeah, so I feel like I'm like constantly just trying to talk them out of it. And it sounds bad, but it's just, I know that there's really no win there. What are your thoughts in pursuing them?
So what kind of down payment do they have?
Nothing.
They have
Like,
nothing.
So this needs to, okay.
you know what, they listen to those people on the side of the road with, I'm gonna make you.
Yeah.
So what I would probably recommend then is if you can talk them into it, is doing owner occupied 4-plex. Because then they could do like FHA financing with like 3.5% down, which would be
They
a
don't
lot
have any
easier to
down.
get.
You mean 4 up to 4.
Okay, well, it's something really small so they could get in because they don't have much cash. And that way would be a start. And for the podcast that listen to, it's called house hacking.
Yeah.
So it's like, hey, get into a 4-plex and maybe it'll be basically rent free because the other 3 units should cover most of everything. Maybe you got $400 left over. And then you can take the money that you would have been paying on your mortgage every month and save that up for the down payment on the next property. So you kind of have to sell the longer term vision. Is the people that you're working with, are they married?
No.
Okay.
One's
Is it a
using-
couple or is it?
One's using his parents' money.
Okay.
Was the one that's like 500.
Okay.
So he's just like, hey, I want to live in this place, but we know his standards. They're not up
Okay.
to where he would live anyway. He's renting and he's at a luxury place.
Okay.
I'm like, man, there's no way he would live in the duplexes that did come up. So
Okay.
that's kind of just been.
So probably the toughest thing about that is that the parents are really the decision makers.
Mhm.
And then if the other person that you're working with is a couple, the hardest part, I'm not saying this to sound sexist, is getting the woman on board. Because she's going to be like, well, why do I want to live in this crappy apartment? Because the guys I usually find are like, dude, let's do this. We're going to have a financial future. And she's like, no, I don't want to live next to the pit bull and all that sort of stuff. So
Yeah.
that's probably going to be the biggest challenge. But I would try to shift into residential multifamily. Financing is way easier. They just got to be willing to live in it because they don't have the cash to be able to go buy an investment.
And that's a great point on that 0 to 4. this gets into that residential financing. So they can get a traditional mortgage here. This is where it shifts into the commercial financing, which is this ballgame.
Yeah, whole another ball.
Yeah, see, the guy I had talked to, he has a girlfriend, but I don't think she plans on staying there. His thing is like, hey, I want to buy this fourplex or whatever, and from there, he travels a lot. He wants nothing to do with it. He just sees big profits. So
He's going to have the down payment, or he's going to find an extremely motivated seller who's probably going to be older, maybe have health issues, or not want to deal with trying to do a 1031 exchange, so they'd be willing to do a seller carry and receive the payments instead. But you're, as an agent, you're not going to find that on the MLS. Sometimes I'll get clients that approach me and it's like, dude, the scenario you're looking for, like, I'd have to be working 40 hours a week to find you that
Just to
deal.
find it.
Yeah.
And so it's not
Yeah,
worth
it's not
it in
worth
that regard. It's like, hey, we can do this, but unless you want to start posting ads on Craigslist trying to find that seller, then it's probably not going to happen. Because if that seller goes to an agent on the MLS, they're going to be looking for somebody who's buying it as an investment with 25% down at least. So they're not probably going to want the seller carry. You might find it sometimes like in the confidential agent remarks, but the problem that you're going to have is that you're going to have very little inventory to show them. Because that's going to be one deal out of 100 that's going to be the perfect thing that lines up for everybody. But then if it doesn't suit their own personal tastes, because that's part of the problem when you get somebody that's house hacking, is not only do the numbers have to make sense financial-wise for it to be a good return on investment, they have to contrast that with what their own personal tastes are for the neighborhood and the property quality. And usually those are quite at odds. And so it's hard to make it work in that regard.
We don't have a lot of fourplexes, up to fourplexes built in the Phoenix metro that are decent.
Right.
Like other cities like, Chicago and the East Coast. And so the same pretty much. Some places in California, but like Phoenix, everything that I found, that is nothing. Another thing is that you'll find them when they have a huge HOA because they're part of a there's more buildings like
Yeah,
that.
they're big groups of
And then it
fourplexes.
takes a lot of your profit and it's not worth it. So like if you find it outside of an HOA, it's usually a crappy area. But you can do, like if you have a VA person, they can buy for $0 down. So the VA will go more based on the units because they're getting income. So you can actually, if you can find a decent one, like I'm looking all the time, people ask me all the time. And then I tell them where it's at, like Sunny Slope or wherever, and they're like, I drove around there, it looks like it's, Medtown, and I'm like,
Yeah, so you can make the deal work, but they have to be willing to compromise, because it's just like the risk versus reward thing, where they have to, if they're willing to go into a war zone, and it's like, if you're a former Marine, like, dude, we can make this work all day. But if they're not willing to do that, or if it's a couple and the girl doesn't feel safe walking their dog in there, so they can totally kill the deal.
Everyone's looking for.
Yeah. And if they don't have the
I'm wasting a
25%,
lot of time helping,
And
but
that's why I feel
actually
bad
it's a
because
huge
I-
market if you can build those.
She's like, hey, dude, you have to learn a little bit more and dabble. So I'm like, I feel like we're spinning our wheels.
Yeah.
There's a couple of clients that are asking that, so I kind of feel like I'm like brushing them off. I already showed them things like MLS. That's about it. I'm like, you know what? I really don't want to spend too much
And
time.
MLS, honestly,
Areas.
0 to 4, and even
Yeah,
with
but if you can actually get somebody that wants to build those, I think it will be a huge
anyone
market.
that's
A few years ago, I found some, I think it was like around 35th Avenue, and Forest area. Well, actually it was part of 35th Avenue. And they were built in 2006 or 5, brand new. And then the market crashed, and somebody, and I told my client, you need to buy, because they were brand new, beautiful units, like condos, 4, and there were 2 buildings. And I haven't found since then that kind of, quality. They
I might
sold
have
for
a-
like.
I have a buyer.
$5,000.
I
So if you can,
wanted to see
like,
if you have or know
get
anything.
clients
They're
or
looking up
just
to
find
5
somebody
million.
willing to buy
Okay.
like infill land. that's out
Multifamily.
of
They
the
found a
building.
60
If you
unit
build those, you will
apartment,
sell them.
but it went
fast.
pending right when we were
Because we
putting
just,
the
we just don't have it.
LOI together.
I just sent out a 4.6 yesterday to all my guys. It might be a
How many units? Because he's doing a 1031 out of a 12 unit.
Yeah,
And I sold him 3 years ago and it's already gone up like 25%.
Because they're easy for somebody to come and buy them.
Hello, this is Justin.
But you gotta have it and you gotta get nice so people wanna move it.
I went on the phone.
I'm just saying, if I can find somebody who wants to build it.
Any other questions, guys?
All the time. Find me a
Ladies?
Find me a fourplex.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm wasting my
This stuff's
time.
really complicated. I mean, you explained it really well, but wow, it's so different.
It's a lot of math and a lot of spreadsheets.
And I suck at math, and I tell the clients that I'm like, hey, I'll negotiate all
I'm
day.
good at math.
Call your lender.
You let him do that. Yeah, I live in Excel. I mean, we just have
Yeah.
different spreadsheets for different things depending on what we're doing. And a lot of times, because like this one that's super messy, we're rebuilding the rent roll from scratch to make sure that it adds up and that it matches, because that changes the value of the property. We did one in Mesa last year. I want to say it was like 8 units in Mesa last year, and we were rebuilding it, and it wasn't adding up, and we couldn't figure it. Something was off. Well, we finally figured out it was basically 2 fourplexes on the same land, so it was an 8-plex, but they actually had 2 water meters, which is like I said, super uncommon. And no one knew about the other meter except the guy that was selling it, and he had a broker, and even the broker didn't know. And I went back to him, I was like, dude, it's $5,000 a year in costs that's not accounted for. That changes the value of the property $60,000. We're not going to pay what we were paying. The value's the value, and you're getting rents. I was like, no, we're not. It changes everything. It's only $5,000 a year, I get it, but it's a $60,000 swing on this particular property. He was like, we're not even going to negotiate, we'll take it back to market. I was like, all right. Call my client, he's like, let's see if they'll meet us somewhere. It's like, the property's still good, it still makes sense, I still like it. Yeah, it's not the cap I want, but they got to meet us somewhere. They can't just expect us
So
to
they
pay full price.
didn't, so basically they didn't disclose the cost,
They had their
the
costs
bill
wrong.
for the other water.
Yeah, and they didn't do it intentionally. I don't think there was any malice in it. They just literally didn't know, because the guy that was selling it was very old, and just he didn't know, and he didn't have any accounting system, so it was all being billed by the broker. And finally, I called because most of these you'll see, like most of them have a list of people at the bottom of all the different brokers that are on that deal. I just called the next guy on the totem pole. I was like, hey, listen, here's what's going on. It's like, oh yeah, we'll figure that out. And we did. I think we ended up getting like 30 or 40 grand off the price or something like that. It all worked. So yeah, you gotta check the numbers. I mean, we're checking numbers and checking numbers. I had one spreadsheet for a deal we did last year in Excel, and we were over 2,600 lines of formula and theory for the rent roll. I mean, it was a complex deal, but sometimes your eyes get a little skewy. You gotta
So that's all commercial. Do you ever see like residential go into commercial, or it's like, hey, you kind of pick your space and then just say?
Yeah, there's guys that switch over. There's some guys that do a little bit of both. I think there is a tipping point where you have to pick one. There's an agent here that I do some work with, and he's been kind of playing the residential game, doing some commercial and doing some residential, and he's just not getting the traction he wants with commercial. And I said, you're at the tipping point, dude. You either got to commit and get all in and just suck it up and go for it and take the jump, or you've got to just go do residential. Doing half and half, you're going to continue to get the results you're getting, because it's just they're different worlds. I always tell people, commercial real estate and residential real estate, we're in the same universe, but we're Earth and Jupiter. We are miles apart, and we are 1,000% different, but we all are in the same universe. That just doesn't mean we're the same.
Okay.
Being a new commercial agent, what are they doing for acquisitions? I mean, are they calling?
There's a lot of ways. If you're looking to prospect,
Because obviously you can't do open houses.
no, it doesn't work. CoStar is your best bet, and I know that that's a heavy expense for people, and that's what I was telling this other agent. I was like, you gotta nut up and just bite the bullet and add it as a cost to your business, because he was relying on me to get stuff or someone else to get stuff, and that cripples you, and you can't really do any farming or prospecting if you don't know how to get the people's information, unless you're just going to go door knock on every business.
So like going after expireds? Is that what you're saying?
No, you can. There's about, I don't know, as many ways as you can think. I mean, there's 6 really solid ways right off the bat. depending on what you're looking for. So like multifamily, if I was looking for multifamily, one, I'd go, where do I want to be?
Yeah.
Okay, I want to be Tempe by the university. I blow that out. I thank you for coming, guys. Thanks for
Thank
your
you very much,
questions.
Aaron. We appreciate that, brother. You know what, and then, I have to get a digital business card because I've been I've had a couple people dabbling and ask about commercial.
Yeah.
And this guy's from some other broker, so I'm like, hey, I'll put it out. I'm not really following up or anything with it.
Yeah.
So,
Give me a call.
Yeah,
Take care of you.
Give me a call. Okay.
Awesome.
You guys all have a good one. Take care.
And so, you blow that out and you say, okay, I really don't want to tackle anything that's, over 50 units maybe, or price per door or whatever. And then I want stuff that hasn't sold in the last 5 years. And I want stuff that is occupied. I mean, any little kind of criteria, that's one thing CoStar really excels at is their analytics. You could then boil that down to maybe it's a list of 5, maybe it's a list of 50 people, and then also through that system you can get direct numbers, so it's not the LLC and who it is. You get the true owner,
On
the true name,
CoStar?
and you can call them, be like, hey, Mr. Johnson, I was just looking at your property here on 24th. It looks like you've got a great 8 unit there. The market, as you might know, is going really well right now, and multifamily is in high demand. I wondered if you'd be interested in me doing a property analysis for you, tell you what your property might be worth right now. Foot in the door, or however your value add, that client, your foot in the door. Well, great. When can I come see you? In a week? Wonderful. There's a few questions I have. Can I email you those so I can have those prepare it? Get their rents and expenses, and then you go and present and see if you can get the listing. But I mean, you can do that with office. You can do that with industrial. Whatever your kind of niche is, and then there's a dozen other ways that you can hone that down and spin it a different way.
And I have a different thought. Is it possible, because there are apparently a few people interested occasionally in commercial or interested in getting into commercial one way or another, is it possible to talk to Mark and see if they can get it for the brokerage and provide access to for certain monthly pay fee or something?
For CoStar?
Yes.
Can't. They have that thing on lock. I have to be at my computer. I have to log in on the computer.
Face recognition.
It sends me a notice. Are you trying to log in? Yes. Then it goes back to the computer and brings up a QR code. I have to scan it with my phone. Then it turns my camera on, and I have to do this little number for 30 seconds while it takes my picture, and then it goes, shh, oh, yep, and then it facial recognizes me with the system and goes, oh, you're Aaron, we can let you log in.
Wow.
Wow.
It's like launching a nuclear fucking missile. It's stupid.
How much
It's so
does
stupid.
it cost roughly for an individual?
250 to 300
Okay.
A month.
a month.
Is there a difference between agent CoStar account and broker account?
Ours is the full account, so you can get a lesser one for about 200 a month, but it doesn't give you all the analytics, so it's kind of pointless. You can see listings, but that's about it. You can't run comps, you can't see what other stuff's sold for. You only get to see what's listed for lease and what's listed for sale.
Okay.
So you do get 100% of it rather than the 70% that's on LoopNet, but yeah, you're still handicapped. So for 50 to 100 bucks, you
Yes.
get the whole thing.
So when you see the cap rate, some agents will put there, let's say for like a 8 unit, will just have the cap rate. When you see the cap rate, I mean, and they have some expenses listed, they have the income, but like some of it doesn't make sense because it doesn't seem like it's all the expenses there. And then you're like, well, I don't even know if I'm interested or not because I don't really know. And then they go like, well, we need a letter of intent or whatever, an offer for us to disclose the rest of the numbers. And it's like, okay.
It happens. I take all of the numbers with a grain of salt because some people figure them differently, and sometimes they don't include things, and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, there's a Cox bill, but really that shouldn't be included. You can cancel that." And so we're putting the number out as this, and it's like, well, that's not the real number right now because we want the actual. And then we want to do our performer to see what we can get it to be. We don't want their well wishes and then try and build our well wishes off of that. We want to know exactly what it is. So one thing that I would say it's gone down. It's still pretty common, but really, really last year and the year before that, everything was listed on Performa. So they were giving us, 7 cap, 6 cap. All of a sudden we're like, yes, yes, yes. And then I get the OM and it's, well, this is the Performa. If you raise the rents and cut the expenses and da 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 da. Well, what's it performing at right now? Well, 4 1/4. Well, I don't want it for 4 1/4.
Right.
Unless you're going to sell it to me just that way.
I had an agent that listed at one of those assisted living homes, that I've been looking
yeah.
at. And it was completely vacant, there was not one person, but she had this, price and the price for business and this great income. And then she says, I said, I want to take my client to look at this. And then she says, but, like I'm trying to set up. She's like, it's vacant. And I said, but what did you have? Oh, she's like, it's all pro forma. And I'm like, oh God.
Yeah.
I said, yeah, that's going to take 2 years to get to.
Yeah, exactly. And that changes the numbers.
Right.
Would you say the biggest part of due diligence for multifamily is verifying income and expenses? That's really what it comes down to.
That's the biggest. Inspection, like I said, it matters this much. I mean, yeah, you want to go in there, you want to make sure that people aren't, having a meth lab somewhere.
Right.
You want to put eyeballs on it. You want to do your inspection. If the roof needs replaced, you need to know that because it's going to be a cost that's going to go into your expenses.
Okay.
But the meat and nitty gritty of it is
Get the numbers right.
Yeah.
For the inspection, that's kind of a dual question. For the inspection and for tenant estoppel certificates, how do you get that done in a situation where the seller doesn't want the tenants to know that the property is for sale?
It has to with an estoppel. Especially because the banks usually are going to require the estoppel.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, Mr. Seller, you have to. At this point, once we're under contract and we've been down the road enough that we're going to schedule inspections,
Right.
that we're committed enough to spend, $2 to $5 grand on
Right.
a property inspection, you've got to know that you've got to tell your tenants at this point.
Right.
Because otherwise, why are we going to spend $5 grand on something we don't know if we can perform on?
Gotcha.
So yeah, I push that back on them pretty solid. Most of them are pretty good about it once you get to that point. At the beginning, okay, let's keep it quiet till we really know, but I usually judge it by inspections because we usually won't do the inspections till almost maybe a week before our DD's up because we don't want to pull the trigger on $5 grand if we don't need to. So we'll go right into the financials and really hone in on that.
Okay.
That all starts adding up, then it's all right, inspection, estoppels.
How long is the due diligence period and the average escrow, would you say?
If we're financing, 9 times out of 10, 30 days is my shortest DD.
Okay.
Really try and get 45.
Okay.
Escrow's usually 60 to 90.
Okay.
That's with financing. If it's cash, it can be anything shorter, but it's still, if you've got 16 units, it takes some time. And these ones are a hot mess. Like we had to get an extension on our DD. We had a 30-day DD on the first one that we went under contract with, and we couldn't get everything to add up and get it, and we're still tracking down utility bills and all this stuff. It's like, guys, we're not even to go, and our DD's already up. You got to give us 2 more weeks. And they're like, yep, we totally understand. We didn't realize this was so messy.
Gotcha.
And they were good.
So you go back and you track all the rent rolls for all the units and you start adding that in the spreadsheet. And the other thing is getting the bills, all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
and making sure the numbers add up.
Yeah, and we'll get actuals. I need every water bill for the last 12 months.
Right.
Before that, sure, give me your QuickBooks
Okay.
and just show me what the utility bills were. But for the last 12, I want to see
See
them.
the actuals, right?
And give me the actuals so that we can see. Because then there's always stuff in there. Like one of these units, they're getting charged for trash from the city, but then they've got a separate trash company coming and doing trash. So that's another one we found this. We're like, just have the city's a third of the price, and they're already charging you. Just let the city do it. Why do we have this separate service? But they didn't know what they were doing, so we're gonna cut that expense off.
Was the owner out of town?
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah.
always good.
So, I've got to run. I got to catch a flight. So.
Quick question. Yeah, good luck with the flight.
Thank you.
Do we have the, do you know why an SBA lender would not approve somebody if they're not from here to open a business here to finance?
No, as long as, has the business been around for 3 years?
Yeah, it's not about the business per se, it was about the buyer. They said, well, they thought they were gonna get the SBA, and it's those guys from California where the one was an agent, and they were gonna go in together.
Gotcha.
And one of them came, and I showed them, not a whole bunch, but like 3 homes, but they said once they went to talk to the lender, because they're from California and the business